Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. Today we're going to be talking about some bench press pad assistance performance gear. That is a mouthful for sure. Speaking of mouthfuls, I won't make that joke, but what we have here is the Moving Over Boundaries Limitless Grip and the Padlock Gripper. I think that's just all it's called. It only offers one thing. This company has a couple other products as well. So as far as this goes, it's an interesting story how I came upon both of these. I originally was reached out to the Moving Over Boundaries team. They offered to send me one of these to test and review. I said, sure, why not? I posted something on Instagram, which led me to have the Padlock Gripper team reach out to me and say, hey, we also make something similar. We'd love for you to try out our product. I said, sure, why not? I posted both of these on Instagram saying I was going to test them out. And I got a couple of other people to respond to ask about other things. Number one, I actually had another company say their gripper was the best because it covers the entire bench. I offered to let them send me one to also review and stack up against them. They never responded, so by default, they are the worst. Not really that serious, but I just thought it was funny. And then there's a lot of other people that were asking about other grippers on the market, as there seems to be a lot these days. And for that, I have a solution for you, and that is this thing, which is just a simple shelf liner or rug liner, non-skid rug pad, non-skid liner pad for your cabinets, whatever it may be. I'm going to use this as well because I'm pretty sure that this is basically the same thing as any other ones on the market, or maybe even these ones too, that don't adhere to the bench itself. Convince me otherwise. I don't know. There's just that. So I'll be taking a look at these three today, but mainly focusing on these two products as these are actual products meant to do something. This is just a jerry-rig version that doesn't cost very much, yet does still a very effective job. And there's a couple other things I want to mention. So obviously you guys know, especially based off the shirt that I'm wearing, I'm a big fan of the A7 bar grip shirts. I've done a video on how these are actually very helpful when it comes to benching and for squatting, which is what sets this shirt apart in my opinion, as it also helps with the grip of the bar on your back when you're squatting. But I understand many people don't want to pay $35 for a t-shirt, which is roughly the same cost as either of these would run you. And I also understand that if you buy one of those t-shirts, you're unlikely to wear that shirt every single day or buy multiple shirts. I'm just so happen to have a ton of these, so I wear them all the time. So that's one of the things I will say. I will also say I know a lot of people like to just use exercise bands on the bench. I did that for a long time in commercial gyms. I do think that's an effective way to do it as well. It's not as effective because you don't get a ton of coverage, but it can make a slippery bench more sticky, which again, getting to the point of these products is really what we're looking for. So typically what you find in commercial gyms or even in some of the gyms you've been to, if they have older benches, they are quite slick and they're not very easy to dig your shoulders and traps into if you're trying to set up. For those of you that use leg drive, which I'm not a part of that group, and try to push yourself back into the bench, if you have a slippery bench, it makes it very hard to set up and you'll find yourself being pushed right off of the bench itself. So by adding in something like this or some of the other things that I've mentioned, what it'll do is it'll make that bench more sticky, akin to what a competition style bench would be, which is very sticky and you probably won't move as much on there, and allows you to do a better setup, and then in theory lets you have better shoulder health because you can dig your shoulders in, you can arch your back, get a bigger bench press, all that other good stuff. So that's the point of these things. Now, as I mentioned, they are very similar, and I'll kind of keep the middle one for last just to share my thoughts on it. But again, the way that these work is you put them on the bench, and they're both size, relatively the same size. They are meant to fit a standard size bench, which is 12 inches across, and you have the length right here, which I don't know, but I'll flash on the screen and I'll measure. I tend not to measure things that I don't want to know the length of. That's just me. The way they attach to the bench is a little bit different. They both have two attachment points as far as the straps go. This one uses more of a click lock system here, and the Padlock gripper uses more something akin to what you might see with some knee wraps and some Velcro. So I will say that I noticed that both of these work very well. I think the Padlock gripper itself gives you a little bit tighter of a grip because you don't have to actually tighten it yourself. With the Moving Over Boundaries Limitless grip, you have to first click the locks together, then pull the tightener fastened. This one, because there is some elastic in it, it kind of does that for you already. So I feel like this gives you a little bit more of a tighter grip. But again, because these are both very sticky as is, this thing isn't going to move much anyways. Now, speaking of stickiness and speaking of other things, I'm trying to find some differences between the two because, like I said, they are very similar, and this isn't going to make for a very long or interesting video necessarily. The pattern and the texture that they use on the front of their products are a little bit different. So I would put the Moving Over Boundaries one to be a little bit more flat, but the material feels a little bit stickier to me, as opposed to the Padlock gripper, which is more raised, almost similar to what you might find on the knurl of a barbell, but it's more of a rubber feeling where it doesn't feel as sticky, if that makes sense. What's interesting, if you flip the padlock gripper around, the material on the back, which is used to stick to the bench itself, is actually very similar to what the moving over boundaries grip uses. So I found that's a little bit interesting. I would think that the thought process behind it is this one is going to grip the bench very well, and then with the raised knurling pattern, it's going to dig into you a little bit better, thus making it more sticky, whereas the moving over boundary ones uses the same sticky sides on both, so in theory, it should stick to you as well. Now, in application, they both work very well. They do work better than just your normal bench. Again, depending on how you set up and how you put your shoulders and how much you dig in, this may or may not help you. It really is going to depend on what kind of bench you're used to. Personally, I found the hardest part about using these was something stupid, and that is just making sure that I put it on the right spot on the bench. Again, given the length issue here, I don't find it to be very long. You have to really make sure that you know exactly where you dig into your traps and shoulders, and once you use it once or twice, you can do that without an issue. So both of them work in the same vein in that regard. Otherwise, like I said, very, very similar. As far as the retail cost, I believe the padlock gripper right here is $39.95. And I believe the moving over boundaries limitless grip is $40. So very similarly priced for very similar type products. To be honest, I can't recommend one over the other. I think they both work well. And if you're looking for a piece of exercise equipment that will assist in your grip for your bench press, either one of these will work fine. And I don't think you'll be dissatisfied with your purchase. So that's that, and that's that. Let's talk about this little guy here, which is the shelf liner. And to be honest, if you don't care about looks and you don't really care about strapping something down to the bench, I think this may be a very valid option for you as well. I would definitely place this above what the bands look like in terms of just aesthetics when you're using it. Of course, if you're carrying this around in the gym bag, you probably don't care anyways, but this works, in my opinion, just as well as these other two products. Yes, it doesn't necessarily clip on to the bench like these other ones do, but the material itself is sticky enough where you won't find that it moves very much. And because when you buy these things, you typically have to buy them in a roll. Like for example, I think there's a 12-inch by like 10-foot roll, or I'll post something I found on Amazon really quick for like $15. Again, not really good with measurements because I try to avoid them when possible, but it's like $15 for a bunch of this, and you can custom cut it. So if you want it to be the whole length of the bench, you could. If you want it to be a little bit wider, you could probably do that as well. If you want it to be in a star shape, hell, you could do that too. You could do whatever you want. But I think for someone who is very budget conscious, this would probably be the best way to go. If you're not as budget conscious and you want something that's actually made for the job and is going to work very well, and also in some cases comes with a warranty. I think, for example, the padlock gripper has a 30-day money-back satisfaction guarantee. I think the limitless grip has a 14-day return policy on it. You could get something more specific for about twice the price, and again, you'll be just as happy either way. So at the end of the day, this video is kind of pointless. I wanted to show you these two things in case you're in the market for stuff, or exactly the shelf liner as well, if you want to just go the cheap at-home route, or I should say cost-efficient route. But any way you go, these can help you get that better grip on the bench if you're looking for it. I will put links to all three of these things in the comment section, in the more info box below, and I will probably use an Amazon link for that shelf liner, because if you buy that $15 thing, I want my 5 cents of you buying it from me. You're welcome. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching, and stay big. If you have any other questions for some reason that I didn't cover, leave them in the comment section below too. See you next time.